Thank you. There's Laura Loomer. Thank you very much, Ed. Ed's a great friend, and I really appreciate you having me again, and really appreciate being here. Again, just a few shout-outs. My board member, Matt Tiermon's there, and Laura Loomer right there. My good friend Laura Loomer are here. So I'm going to do something unusual. Usually I would show video clips. Today I'm going to actually just speak, and I'm going to show a very brief clip, and I'm going to announce what we're releasing next week. I'm going to tell you what we're going to release next week. I'm not going to show you what we're releasing, but I'm going to give you a tease. And the subject of our investigation for launch next week is the deep state. And we are calling it Unmasking the Deep State. And I'm going to talk to you a little about what that is, what's going to happen, and then we're going to show a little tease clip. I think the audio-visual guys have it queued up when we're ready. So first I'm going to talk about this deep state. What is the deep state? Why are we exposing it? And then I'm going to talk about what a disgrace American journalism is and how we're going to change it. So first, what is the deep state and why is Project Veritas going to unmask it? To some, this deep state is an anonymous, faceless resistance. To others, it is a vast, unaccountable government bureaucracy, or some would call it an extra-legal state within a state. Some call it a conspiracy theory. But that conspiracy theory just recently took out an op-ed advertisement in the New York Times. So it's not a conspiracy theory anymore. But who wrote that piece? Who wrote that in your... I'm sure you would all love to know that, right? It's a little bit of foreshadowing here. And how many of them were there? And what are their names? Who are they? How old are they? What agencies do they work for? So this unelected cabal of federal government workers, these deep state people, are basically stomping on the Constitution. They are in all branches of government, and they are hiding among the some 2.5 million federal employees. So at the most fundamental level, Americans make their voices heard through elections, and these people are circumventing that. Members of the deep state view themselves as having nothing to lose. A lot of them brag about how they can't get fired. Another bit of foreshadowing. Congress used to be a lawmaking body. It has abdicated their authority and their responsibility. Now they just are basically oversight bodies. Much of Washington operates without accountability and transparency. That's why we do undercover journalism, because we need transparency in government. And some of them are quite brazen about it. And there's just no accountability. You can't get fired. You're more likely to die as a federal government worker than get fired. So as a nation of laws, we expect the people we elect to uphold the laws. That's obvious enough. Not disregard the laws. We are equal before the law. We are a nation of laws. The agencies of Washington, D.C., so they must be held accountable. And then there is the fourth estate, our journalist friends in the American media, which have been fanning the flames of the deep state for the last 2 years, and since November 7th. The media has created a cycle of politically motivated leaking, followed by media outlets backing off of earlier leaks that have been deeply misleading. We have also seen a confluence of error-ridden stories between intelligence agencies, political operatives, all for the sake of narrative. But we don't get to see the faces of these shadowy figures, at least not until soon. We don't get to see what their motivations are. We don't get to see why they're doing what they're doing. We don't know anything. We just have anonymous sources. So therefore, by the power invested in me, by all of you, and just because it's really damn fun, we at Project Veritas think it becomes necessary to unmask the deep state, to personify them. To put a face to a name, as they say, to the individuals who seek to disturb the fabric of our country. And in order to do that, we must secretly record them outside of their federal buildings, because I've done that before and that didn't go so well. In order to do that, we must expose them in their own words, so that I'm not the source. I'm not the source of this information. They are the source. When you hear them attack me, well, James O'Keefe is not a credible source. Well, I'm not the source. They're the ones talking, not me. So I'm going to show you just a little brief 30-second little ad, if you will, that will preview the story that will likely drop next week. Take it away.
It's a socialist organization, and we want to, destroy capitalism.
There's like a little resistance movement.
Inside?
Kind of like the Nixon deep throat type of thing.
Deep State Unmasked, next week. And it's pretty big what these guys are saying, who they are. So let me just talk a little bit more about that, about what this is going to happen. So no doubt when we release these videos, the media is going to object to this viciously, which doesn't make any sense to me because their whole reason for being is to expose government corruption. But they will certainly not. They will object to this and attack me viciously. And the first thing they'll do, and I'm just anticipating this for all of you, is they're going to attack the methods. They're going to claim that it's unethical to record people without their consent and produce that into a video that I put on YouTube. Let me address that, and let me address that vehemently. It isn't unethical. It is not unethical, certainly not when another person is present to the conversation doing the recording. Surreptitious recordings are not an invasion of privacy. We, through establishing rapport with these government officials, which we did over the course of 6 months outside of their offices, we have no duty to keep the information that they gave us confidential. We did not entrap these people, and their images and voices capture their character much more accurately than an ocean of words on newsprint could. This is them on video. The things that make people uncomfortable about undercover journalism, the brutal reality of it, the rawness, the irrefutability of it, is precisely why it's so great. It causes people embarrassment. Well, good. Maybe people ought to be more embarrassed about what they're doing. Undercover recordings are not unethical, but I'll tell you what is unethical. The abuse of anonymous sources over the last 2 years is highly unethical. One commentator described the recent license, this poetic license taken by Bob Woodward. He described him as a Washington ventriloquist who keeps straight the strings of the talking puppets. Woodward offers second-hand quotes in this book, Fear, from anonymous sources, second-hand, quoting other people months after the events allegedly took place. We don't do that. We film the anonymous sources and give them to you. To do anything less is to abandon the very reason for journalism's existence. Unlike Woodward and Bernstein, we won't quote anonymous sources in the administration relaying to you what happened. We basically just show them to you. And unlike the New York Times op-ed page, we won't omit the name of the author to, quote, protect them from losing their job. Federal job security is so great, federal workers are more likely to die than lose their jobs. That is right, death rather than poor performance is a bigger statistic than losing your job. So when we release these stories, we'll give you the names and faces of who's doing it. When the subject of our next video, an employee in the executive branch says, and there are children in the audience here, so I can't even read this full quote, but resist everything, every level, expletive up. You'll be able to see his name and his face. You'll be able to see his title, his employer, his demeanor, his arrogance. You'll be able to see his lack of introspection, his greed, him bragging about how nobody will ever hold him and his comrades, that's a word that he uses, accountable. So, but there's a deeper theme here as I finish up this talk, that transparency is required of those who govern us. Privacy belongs to the people that put those people in power. Transparency belongs to government, privacy belongs to the people. The media has that in reverse. The media thinks that privacy belongs to government and we should be transparency into all of you. That's all twisted. That's inverted. And the reason why it's the inverse is because the people in Washington, they serve their own interest, as you all know. So this is a great injustice. So we must unmask and show you the faces of who these people are. Government exists with the consent of the governed, and that consent cannot be manufactured. The truth must be pursued at all costs. That's why we call it Project Veritas, Project Truth. Our main goal is to deliver truth to the masses, which is the core, the whole purpose of journalism. And the truth is always paramount. So we're going to expose these people because notoriety will expose them and may deter others. We may deter others. We are confident Americans are going to do the right thing. People have no idea how bad it is, not even close. The executive and legislative branches of government may have to buck up and do the right thing for once. Perhaps they will restore the separation of powers. Perhaps they'll do civil service reform. I don't know, but people know the facts. So we're going to expose them one by one. We're going to expose them. We're going to search for every rotten, crooked, no good, deep state, federal official. We're going to release them one at a time. We're going to unmask you, we're going to find you, we're going to make you internet famous. And for Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg, who will inevitably have to send their engineers in to tinker with algorithms and shut down virality, I will say to you that they can't stop us all. They can't shadow ban everyone in this room. And if they really want to do that, then I say, screw them, go ahead. And we will turn our cameras onto the Twitter and Facebook engineers as they do it. But this is going to be an information revolution. It's going to be viral. It's going to be big. Federal workers may lose their jobs, and I need your help spreading it out. Thank you very much.